Yeah, welcome along to LGFA HQ here just across the road from the shadow of Croke Park, and it's a DCU special for you this evening, joined by Ken Robinson, who's Chief Executive of DCU Sport, and Aishling Moloney, who was the Gourmet Food Parlour O'Connor Cup winning captain with DCU earlier this year, and also Tipperary star as well. So yeah, looking forward to a really good show with the guys. Thanks for taking time out to join me this evening. I'm going to start with you, Ken. You're obviously very, very successful in your role with DCU. You're also a key member of the Dublin setup and holders of the Brendan Martin Cup, and I'm sure it's something you'd like to keep your hands on.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we always say when we won, obviously you set the standard of your own standards, and then all of a sudden this season, you know, everybody else is chasing that standard. And look, we know it won't be easy to win it again this year. I think last year we beat 2 Division 1 teams to win it. This year, if we were to be successful again, you're talking 5 Division 1 teams. The standard is just rising all the time. And it's great because, forget about Dublin for a second, I think it's great to see ladies football going to the standard it is, being respected with the crowds. There's great level of coaching. The players are just getting better. The commitment that these girls have is as much as any of the men's teams. So I think that by itself, that tide is rising, which makes it more difficult.
Can I take you back to last September and 46,286 people across the road for the All-Ireland finals? You've worked with elite sports people for a good part of your life. What was that occasion like for you to be involved in?
I remember 2012, March 17th, when I was with Ballymun, and we were beaten by a point by Bridget's of Roscommon. And that was a moment that went by me, looking back at it. And no matter what, I wasn't good enough to play county. So therefore, like all good coaches, you know, if you weren't good enough to play, you coach. But to be honest with you, that occasion went by. To be in Croke Park, I mean, all I wanted to do was kick a football over the bar into the Hill 16 end. And the occasion went by. Like, we were winning by 7 points. We got beaten by a point. Last year, even though there was 46,000 there, it wasn't an occasion for us during the game. It was game 1 of 5, or 5 of 5, and we really handled it like a match. That could have been anywhere. And it's amazing. Like, looking at it, you know, family were there, friends were there. It was a great occasion, great to win it. But during it, it was part of a process. And that's not a coy answer. That's the way it was. Never been so calm. Myself and Mick beside each other on the line, getting the messages in, you know, getting our messages. But looking back now and winning it, it's a beautiful feeling. Like we always say, winning is a wedding, defeat is a funeral. And I remember 2012, that still haunts us to this day. But that day was great.
Yeah, Aishling, you were here as well, obviously. Aishling, you should also mention an ambassador for Lidl, and this show is brought to you by Lidl, our National League sponsors and retail partners. You were there as well, obviously wearing the colours of Tipperary and winning the All-Ireland Intermediate title. What was that like?
Yeah, I suppose as just a knock on what Ken said there, like when you're out in the field, you don't take any notice of what's going on around the pitch. And I suppose like I looked around that pitch just after, I really took it in afterwards because I knew I had to enjoy the moment. I didn't know when I was going to be back there again. And I just looked around and took in the crowds and I said, my God, do you know where ladies football has come from? And I suppose I'm blessed. I was even listening to some of the older girls, Sam and them, the last in the dressing room after being by Donegal, and they're like, girls, like the generation that you're going up in now in ladies football becoming such a dominant thing in Ireland and across the world, if only they could be back in our position again. So I suppose, look, it's brilliant to see, and it's even walking off the field last day playing Donegal, I was never been prouder to wear the Tipperary jersey, and thinking back to last September winning All-Ireland was a very proud moment for me. Yeah, just to pick up on that point, Aishling, so obviously winning the intermediate title brought senior football in championship this year for you guys. Won Division 3 last year, won Division 2 this year, won the All-Ireland Intermediate title last year as well. So it's been a phenomenal period of success for Tipperary. Into the group stages of the campaign, lost to Cork in the Munster semi-final, lost to Kerry and lost to Donegal, but narrowly last weekend. Now you face into a situation where you need to avoid relegation. And I think, you know, from the outside looking in, it would be a travesty if you went down given all the progress that you have. So to stay up now is important. Yeah, I suppose, look, we've come a long way since 3 years ago. Winning Division 2 this year was certainly something that wasn't in our goal. Our goal was to stay up in Division 2, and we ended up winning it then, and then our next aim was we'd Cork then in the first round of championship, and our aim was to beat them. But look, as Ken said, the challenge in senior this year is next to none. Like, you're up against, like, we had 3 tough games and 3 well experienced senior teams. But looking back, I had the most enjoyable year ever, and if we end up back down intermediate, we'll look at that when it comes to it. But in Tipperary, we're hopefully still going in a positive direction going into next year and hopefully face into senior championship again.
We're sitting here on a lovely sunny evening. Ken, I'll hand the microphone back to you. Next weekend it's Mayo, familiar opponents, All-Ireland final last year, Lidl League final this year. Thoughts looking ahead to the weekend?
Well, knowing Peter, he'll have the team well prepared, and they're a very talented team. And it's like everything else. It's on the day. You know, every team prepares well. There's good coaches out there. It's not a case of, I remember doing work with Kildare ladies several years ago, and I really enjoyed that. And, you know, you talk about some teams and, you know, they're hoping to get a manager, they're hoping to get coaches. Now I think it's an honour and a privilege for any coach or manager to be involved with ladies football because, as Ash said, like the standard, I mean, 46,000 people see it. It's a spectacle. They're fine athletes. And I think a word as well that Aishling said, it has to be fun. And I think that's one thing in Gaelic games nowadays. I'm not going to comment that I think the fun has gone out of it, but I worry. And I think it's a hobby, and it has to be that people go and they enjoy their hobby. Yeah, you want to prepare to the best of your abilities and you want to leave no stone left unturned. But if it's not fun, and I think that's where, like, the highest level, winning is fun, but the process has to be fun. So look, next Saturday is going to be difficult. Mayo are a top side, and it's really going to be on the day. And look, we'll do our best, and hopefully we'll get the right outcome. But they're a talented, great squad and great bunch of players.
Ken, just to pick up on that point about the fun element of it, is it because, let's face it, and you're involved in high level sport, it's a serious business?
Yeah, it's a serious business, but there was a Harvard Business Review article there several years ago, and it said that the job of the chief executive is to have an environment of fun. And sometimes when people say a statement like that, I think fun, does that mean everyone's high-fiving and bear hugging and, you know, chest pumping as they go through the office? But if you don't enjoy going into work, it's not a place to go to. And if you don't enjoy going to the training ground or going to the gym or being with your squad, well then it's not a place to be.
Yeah. Ken, you work with a squad of 30 plus players on a regular basis, and I'm sure you see lots of different personalities, and you know, we've studied the type A's and the type B's and what makes them tick and what makes others tick. Some players simply, and I'll lead on to this with you, Aishling, as well, some players simply play better if they're enjoying what they're doing.
Absolutely. I think, you look, it's like the Open was on last week, and I'm sure when golfers try too hard, they freeze. And if you try too hard, you tighten. And if you try too hard, it doesn't happen. I'm sure Ash can say her best scores are when she's just flowing. And the same, you know, when you're flowing, you're not tight, and then everything else. Because nowadays, the fitness levels, the skill levels, the preparation is all there. But on the day, you know, you don't want it so much. I was with Dublin Hurlers for 2 years, a great bunch of fellas, and you know, I just saw them as being great men, every one of them, not an energy sapper around, all great people, but they wanted it so much that sometimes the more you win, then success goes on because you don't tighten as much. So, but I think you have to enjoy it along the way.
Aishling, would you describe yourself as a carefree type of player?
We actually had this joke before the match last night playing Donegal. We were sitting, I was in getting physio, and one of the girls, we just had this argument over, this saying of, if you don't have nerves, you don't care kind of thing. And I was at something there during the week, and I said it to him, and the physio was looking at me, he was like, I think it's a good thing, he's a rugby player himself. And I was like, to be honest, I go out and I care the whole time and I don't get nerves. So I sat there messing and being like, I'm going to get nerves now and trying to get nerves, joking. But no, as Ken has said there, sorry. As Ken has said there, I feel personally when I go out on the pitch, if I'm enjoying the game, I tend to play better. If I go out and I'm tight, as he said, and that's the exact way he put it, if I go out and I want to get this ball, I have to get the next ball, I have to get this score, you're just tense inside, your brain is overanalyzing what your next step is, instead of actually just expressing yourself and let the game flow freely like. So
we could talk all night about the psychology of it. It's really fascinating. So you feel when you're in that, as Ken mentioned, that flow state and everything is just happening naturally, that's when you play your best stuff.
Yeah, well, I suppose before the game, like, you have the little tingle in the stomach and you just want the touch of the first ball. But I think it's about going out expressing yourself and enjoying the moment. And once you're enjoying it, then I tend players tend to play well. But everyone has their own preparation. And like, I'm in the dressing room beforehand, like 5 minutes before the match last day, I wasn't even ready. Like, I was coming in like no socks or nothing, they're giving out to you. But that's how I prepare for a match. And other girls then would have the earphones in and they don't want to talk to anyone. They might go into the toilet for a while before the match. But I suppose it's just about coaches about getting the balance right, and managers seeing that and how people deal with preparation for matches. And I suppose everyone is there for it. It's just about getting the balance right.
Ken, you've seen every type of player. You know, there are some at the same time who relish that responsibility, who relish the pressure, the clutch moments. That's when they come to the fore.
Yeah, I heard a story last week, I won't say who, but it was an inter-county hurler, and he said that he was in a dressing room where the manager said everyone doesn't have to speak. Because I've been in dressing rooms where somebody speaks, one of the players, and they're saying stuff that's really trying to reaffirm how they're thinking. And, and I think at the end of the day, I think Aishling put her finger on it. It's Aishling, isn't
it? We might need an edit on this part.
Like, every player is different. And I think that having that emotional intelligence as a coach, as a manager, as the physio, is to understand how every player is different. That, if you try and bring one size fits all to every player, she might not like that. She might not like that. You have to really understand. Some players it's just a wink. Some players it's, how you getting on. Some other players it might be, I had one player before and you'd ask how his daughter was. So it's trying to disassociate to get them into that calm state. And I think as well, it's like, the manager on the sideline who's going mad. How does that transfer to the pitch? And then the manager who's doing nothing. How does that transfer? So I think managing the environment is critical. But there are players, you see players who that last minute they can just clutch that score. They can, they just relish in it. And I think as well, you notice that there was a great saying that somebody said to me one day: some people train like Tarzan and play like Jane. Yeah. And I mean you can have somebody training really well, but there's nothing like playing at the highest level, whether it's O'Connor, whether it's league, whether it's championship. That's where you see the really top players shine because they play in a float state.
Yeah, we should point out to viewers that Aishling does know who Ken is because
Yeah.
they're actually both from Dublin City University, as we said at the top of the show. Ken, the exploits of the DCU ladies in winning the O'Connor Cup, the Gourmet Food Parlour O'Connor Cup this year, I'm sure that didn't go unnoticed. There was a lot of coverage around the event. Aishling had a strange enough game, got sin bin, came back on, helped to win a penalty, kicked the winner. In terms of the overall impact on sport in DCU, what does an occasion like that do?
It's phenomenal because, I mean, look, I'm in DCU since 2004, and like Professor Niall Moyna and a lot of great people there in GA have really developed GA. I mean, I remember back in the time seeing my first Sigerson game, Waterford IT playing DCU, and like there was a handful at it. And then you've seen it over the years. All of a sudden now you've got Sigerson, you've got O'Connor, and you've Fitzgibbon now. And the Camogie standard will rise because there's just a great emphasis on GAA in the college. And the other thing as well, we've tried to have a strategy where create an environment, have the best of facilities, have the best players being recruited, and then have the best coaches. And I mean, Peter did a great job with the girls, and Angie and all the backroom team, Nipper and the whole lot. And I hate mentioning names because you'll always leave somebody out. But I think if you put those three things together, great environment, great players, great coaches, it might sound like a cliche, but that's a recipe for success. And it was great for the college. And again, great to see, from a ladies' perspective, that, such a great mix of players on that squad from many counties. And I admire that because when they're playing, I coach freshers there with Ross Munley myself. And when you see players come from different counties, I always remember Paul Clark coaching the freshers with us. And like he's a true blue dub. And after about a year with us, he says, you know what? These country lads are grand. And it was great because that's the nice thing about colleges. Like, you're having people from different counties. I can still think when we beat UCD back in 11 or 13 down in Clontarf, players from that day. I met one from Donegal the other day, Jamie Gallagher, and you meet different people. Just great friendships are made. And I think colleges football like that and university football, men, women, it's pure and it's great. And they make great friendships.
Yeah, absolutely. Ken mentioned Peter Clark, Aishling, and the role that he had in your success, and coming from a position where he was carrying some personal grief as well. And I just thought it was incredible the way he conducted himself, the way he carried himself, and the impact he had on you guys as a team.
Yeah, I suppose, look, when all that happened, it was tough on us as a team as well to try overcome that. And we didn't. When I remember the first time Peter was back at training, like, we didn't really know what way to deal with it. But look, we were playing a match there one night at the end of training. We saw Peter was laughing at us, but sure, we were just taking scalps out of each other, like. And we just saw him getting so much enjoyment. We kept on going for about 10 minutes, and he came off the pitch and he said, "Girls, I'd like to thank you for everything you've done for me." And just something so simple. I helped him along the way, but I suppose it's like the J or college or anywhere you go, like even being here today, me knowing Ken from DCU, like it's such a wider community. It's not only going out playing on the field, it's about the friendships, the best friends, the community spirit, a socialising aspect. Back home, my mother was on the flat of her back there 3 years ago after a back operation, and the J were just bringing meals to the house, and it's much more than just going out, going training, going to matches. It's a much wider community than that. But back to Peter again, yeah, look, I suppose he set the environment for us this year in DCU. It was a very enjoyable environment, and it was a very successful year as well, winning the league and O'Connor Cup. But they're an excellent group. I've never had anything like them, and I can't thank them enough for everything they've done for us.
Yeah. Ken, you're going up to Dr. Hyde at the weekend, and a lot of viewers will recognise you from the Blue Sisters documentary last year. So can you tell us the dimensions of the of the pitch?
Hopefully it's only 70 by 20, so it'll be a grand easy game. But no, and that's something that I would have done back in Ballymun when we go to pitches. I remember we played Crokes down in Semple, and when you're going to Semple, like, you stand on the goal line in Semple in the mighty Tipperary, and you look and you go, my God, it's huge. So started counting it from there. So, and it's a very easy thing to do. Like, when you're doing the warm up, you just walk over to the penalty, to the middle of the goal, walk to the halfway, you multiply by 2. There's the goal. That's it. You're not walking pitches like like St. Patrick driving snakes out of Ireland.
So it's not as if you're out with a measuring tape. You're just measuring steps.
I have a 1 metre span with my stride, so that when I want. Not to be boastful, but no, look, it's that Blue Sister was great. Again, I think it was a great catalyst for the promotion of ladies football, and I think the amount of people who saw it, because I'd like to think whomever gets to the All-Ireland final this year, there'll be even more people there, because I think people now realise, wow, look at how well the girls train, look at the preparation, it's as committed as the men's game. Let's go and see it.
But that was that forensic maybe level of detail and preparation that went into winning an All-Ireland title. That's very much part of you, Ken. Like, you prepare diligently and you want your players to respond accordingly.
Yeah, well, the day we played in Timahoe against Laois, when I was going out for the warm-up, I looked around and it was a mice day, and I looked and I thought, wow, this is a small pitch. And it was, whatever it was in the day, I think 127 by whatever it was, 78, and it was set up for an ambush. And that was my first reaction. Because if you're playing against a team, no disrespect to Laois, and they gave an effort, but bring it to a small pitch. So that's the thing. I always remember Shelburne when they played Corunna back in 04 in Lansdowne. They made the pitch narrower,
I was at that game in Timahoe, and I came away feeling that you had improved so much in a short space of time from the league. That the block of work that you got done between league and the beginning of the championship was really solid. Yeah,
well, look, I worked with Mick Bone in 2010 and 2011 at Lucan Sarsfields, which was my own club, and that was the first time I'd experienced Mick as a coach, and there's no doubt about it. I mean, I had the pleasure of working with Joe Schmidt back in Mullingar back in the day as a player, but to see Mick as a coach, he's up there. That's the level. He's forensic in his detail of coaching. I mean, I coach my own team, Lucan Sarsfields, and I enjoy that immensely with the girls there. And any coaching I do, I've learned from him, because his level of not just doing a drill, but why he's doing something to have its outcome and to why that outcome should be there, that's the level. And look, it doesn't matter whether it's rugby, soccer, hurling. The best players play the game very simply, but very fast. And that's the thing. They have excellent skills. They execute them quicker than the players down the divisions. And it's the same with soccer in England. The faster players play in the Premiership, and that's the truth of it. And it's about the skills being executed quickly. So yeah, we worked a lot on the skill level, fitness levels, but it's a continuous process, and every time you bring new players into the squad, you're only as strong as the new ones you bring in.
And with sports science and the way it is now, Ken, the beauty of all of the work that you do is that it's very, very measurable.
Yeah.
It's not back in the old days of running laps around pitches and
No.
You know, you'll get fit to a certain degree
Yeah.
from an aerobic point of view, but this is highly specialised now.
Yeah, well, look, I just completed a master's in St Mary's in Twickenham, and my study was on the effect of speed repeatability in ladies football. That was based over 40 metres. So the whole idea is you can get an aerobic or anaerobic effect with a shorter distance of time. So like running people 400 metres, unless they're going to the Olympics, why would you?
Yeah.
But it's all evidence-based practice, and it's measurable.
Okay. Aishling, unfortunately you guys won't be in the race for that cracking piece of silverware that we have. Your overall thoughts on the championship, because you live with Sarah from Mayo, Aishling Sheridan as well from Cavan. So there's lots of football talk in the house, and you get a good overall view of the landscape. Who are the contenders?
I better watch what I'm saying here now, not to upset anyone.
Well, you've played against Donegal, who
Yeah.
would be considered one of the contenders. You
Yeah,
played against Cork, who would be considered a contender as well.
Yeah, I suppose, we played, well, after the result that Donegal had against Armagh, you know, there was a serious pinpoint view on them and a big watch out for them. It's hard to put a point in it. I don't want to dig a hole for myself either, but I think the top, Mayo, Dublin, Donegal, Galway, Cork, it's there for the opening. It's only minute. It's so minute, these matches. It's a game of inches really, so I can't really tell who's going to be there. And
So who's going to win it then, Ash?
I'll go to the bookies and tell the bookies that one.
The standard, Ash, I mean, did you see a big step up coming from intermediate championship to senior championship?
Yeah, massive. The physicality, even I remember the first day we were playing Cork, and the first ball I got whiplash. Like, you know, it was just a straight, you know, it's just the physicality of it. And I suppose stepping up from intermediate last year, at the time even the ball, you've only milliseconds when you're up senior. But look, I suppose that's improving our team as well. Coming up from intermediate last year, improving us as players and making us learn lessons. Like, you only have milliseconds on the ball. If you make a mistake, it's in the back of the net. I remember against Donegal there at the weekend, I kicked the ball in, it dropped short and went down, and Derry McLaughlin hit the post, and that's just within 5-6 seconds you had there. So I suppose, look, hopefully we stay up senior and we win our relegation battle, and going into next year we'll take a lot of things on board we learnt this year.
Yeah, good luck with everything, Ash, and good luck with the relegation battle. Ken, I'm going to finish with you. We're just about out of time. The standard of ladies football, we've touched on it. Where has it come from when you first got involved to where it is now? I mean, the bar seems to be rising all the time, on and off the pitch, because you work closely in a gym environment and on the pitch with these Dublin players. We got an insight into it in the Blue Sisters. I'm sure there's a lot more that happens off camera that's just so relevant to what they're doing and how they prepare.
Well, I suppose for us it comes down to respect. You know, and when you look at somebody, like, coaches sometimes forget, and we all have to, you know, pinch ourselves and remember every time, when footballers like Aishling and other players come to training, they're not professionals. They're coming from study, or they're coming from exams, or they're coming from a work environment, or travelling. You've got to be conscious of that. And the next thing then is you have to prepare them well, but the environment has to be right. So the respect of making sure they were fed afterwards, making sure they've got the right gear, making sure that the support staff are there, making sure that the pitches are right, that it's not a case of, you know, is there any room at the inn? They're at the rightful place because of the effort they put in. So therefore, creating that environment, the ecosystem as the sort of buzzword is, and if that environment is right and the coaches are right, then the player's ability will be maximised, and then the standard rises across the way. And I'd like to think, and Aishling put her finger on it there, there's 5 or 6 teams this year that could win the All-Ireland. Therefore, you know, they're all treating their players with great respect, and it's working well, and that's what you want even more counties to be doing, because it's a tremendous spectacle. They're fantastic athletes, fantastic players, and, you know, as somebody said once, the future is women. So therefore look after them, because it's a great product. And the problem as well with sport, and we see this in other sports, if you let it go for a year, let it go for 2 years, that slippery slope of letting it go in its macro sense, forget about counties, in its generic sense, macro sense, you've got to look after the sport. It's a great product. And, you know, you look at 46,000 there, look at the amount of girls there, look at the role models these players are for young ladies. And in social aspects, that the role models are there that are fit, you know, good looking athletes, they're role models that they want to aspire to, young girls. So therefore, they're doing a social sort of, job as well as a sport. And I think that's something that has to be managed.
Brilliant. Ken Robinson, Chief Executive of DCU Sport, you coming in here to chat to us all helps in the promotion and keeping the flame alive. And Aishling Moloney, of course, from Tipperary and DCU. We've got a lot of fixtures coming up over the weekend, folks. Ken and the Dubs are in Dr. Hyde Park on Saturday. And that's a repeat of last year's All-Ireland final against Mayo. That is a 1 p.m. throw-in. It's live on TG4, and then at 3 p.m. on the Sport TG4 YouTube channel is Kerry against Donegal, and there's a deferred showing later on in the evening at 7 p.m. So you can catch up on all the action over the weekend. 2 other senior fixtures, and there's junior and intermediate matches on over the weekend as well. So that's been the ladies football show from LGFA HQ. Hope you enjoyed. Over and out. This show has been brought to you by Lidl Ireland. Thanks for watching.